Trigger warning, topics of self-harm and the other word I can't say on YouTube. This video may seem a lot more somber and serious than my other previous works, but that is because it honestly truly is. Although I'll try my best to keep the air of this video light and not let things truly fall to an extremely depressing low. Also, don't get used to more personal content like this, since I rarely want to just sit down and talk real to my audience of literally zero. Anywho, my name is Caleb, or as like the 5 subscribers I have know me as, DogeCat225. I've made a couple slightly successful videos on the internet, and I still have a passion to make a lot more. I've started making analytical YouTube videos as a hobby, with the dream to one day make it big, and maybe even be the main helper and guide on like niche or indie games. Although there's an unfortunate reality with creative hobbies and passions like these. It's just a hobby. I need ways, or at least thought I needed ways to be able to make my future brighter, since the YouTube landscape is truly a gamble. No matter how much you sit down and study the algorithm and attempt to locate trends, whether you truly make it or not can be, in fact, a gamble. I'm aware of the several actually nerds and the several how-tos on becoming famous, but realistically, becoming famous enough to nearly print your own money and ad revenue is a rarity and a luxury. So I needed a way in my life to be able to go to college and have a secure and stable job. Then came knocking, big army. Insert that trade offer meme here. I was informed about the Army Reserves and how I can join to get most Army benefits for a little sacrifice of doing BCT or basic combat training and having a 4 to 6 year contract, with minimal odds of being deployed in combat, just being deployed for disaster relief. It sounded like a great deal at the time, especially since I was able to cop the highly dreamt of MOS, or job for those less informed, of a 6 to 8 whiskey or combat medic specialist. I would just have to pass basic combat training and I can quote unquote live my life stream, survive 10 weeks of hell and come out like a victor. However, my career in the US military had to end before it could even start. Although I'm personally satisfied with how far I made into BCT and I'm glad to be back home. So now for the big question you may be wondering, what happened? To put it simply, basic combat training drove me insane. BCT pushed me to a level that I wasn't mentally prepared for and I paid the price. I survived BCT up until the start of week 4 and made it right into the start of white phase. Now, before I get into more detail, I do want to reiterate trigger warning for the topics of self-harm. If you shake in your boots at the thought of it, respectfully close the video and just watch a different video of mine. You good? Okay. If you or a loved one is suffering from depression and is having suicidal thoughts, dial the suicide hotline 988. Also, therapy is a resource for a reason. It really does help, so give it a chance. So after our company made it into the long-awaited white phase, we proceeded to get evicted, where we literally take everything we own out of our lockers and move it up and down the stairs several times. We got smoked for 45 minutes straight, and then were promptly phased down to red phase. All of the struggling, along with previous standing issues I've had with the Army, and even before the Army, hit me all at once. Since, a little preface, I lost 3 friends the day of shipping to basic, like literally the day of me shipping to basic training. 2 of my friends moved to another state, and then my 3rd friend I had to stop being friends with, and he was my closest friend since elementary school. I tried to shove all the mental noise away, but my mind kept getting louder and louder. My mind starting to tell me how weak I was, how I'm such an effing disappointment, how useless and forgettable a person I am. Everything I described hit me like a brick wall. When the company went upstairs for a latrine break mid-corrective training, I was desperate to free my mind of all the noise and voices. So while I was in the bathroom, I took the stall door and I slammed it into my head as hard as I could. Which, flashbanging your cranium with a little brain damage doesn't exactly help you course correct yourself. So I walked out to my locker and I looked desperately for something to numb my pain, and I was met with a broken metal clothes hanger. I grabbed it, and here I put a little too much description in my original script, which you probably don't know, but I wrote the script during basic combat training, so I was a lot more grim and blunt about things. So let's just say the words, cheese grater. Yeah, figure it out from there. Anywho, resume past me, until my battle buddy yelled my name and asked if I was good, to which my line on self said I was fine and shoved away the coat hanger in my locker. Now, still very uneasy and feeling like I needed more to absolutely remove my overwhelming and demeaning thoughts, I walked to the fire guard desk to look for just anything. Conveniently, everyone had already left for the hit time, so I was basically left all alone in the bay, and there on the fire guard desk, oh so inconveniently, my drill sergeant had forgotten a pair of extra sharp scissors on the fire guard desk. which, from just saying the words sharp scissors, left wrist, and sadness, I think you can put together the pieces of the depression puzzle. I still remember, clear as day, I hurried downstairs to meet the next hit time, literally coddling my left arm since it started feeling really weak. I saw everyone in the front leaning rest position, or the position of the push-up if you're unfamiliar with the military. So I hurried and joined them on the floor, and as I'm sitting here doing these push-up planks, I remember the feeling of just losing all feeling in my left arm. Well, losing most feeling in my left arm, and looking to see my arm just bleeding as I try to blend in with everyone else. Now, you may be more curious as to why I lay this information on you so bluntly, and lay this out so publicly. And that is because you need to be aware of and acknowledge when you've hit your limits as a person. We may not want to acknowledge it, or even shove the idea away outright, but everyone and everything has a limit. And in those very long minutes, in that very long time, I just sat there doing push-ups and corrective training. I had realized the hard way that I extremely overpassed mine, and I took the worst way to cope with it. However, I believe I was a lucky man to realize how bad I had really gotten before things had gotten out of hand, since there are so many stories of people who have lost control of themselves and ended their own lives because of it. There even was one that was going around at basic combat training, since the last cycle had a trainee ended their own lives at the shooting range. And even near the end of the cycle, apparently it happened again to someone at a different company. I think I was very lucky to catch my mental downfall before things came really bad, especially since the day of the incident, the next day would have been zeroing or firing our M4s with live ammunition, which mental illness and live ammunition does not make a good combination. And even before I reached this incident, there were already several signs I had up until the point to tell me that I should genuinely do something about myself. So it wasn't like out of nowhere, pretty much. Like I almost fell over in formation several times. Like my mind just pretty much zoned out, blacked out. And I almost fell back several times, but several people have just, caught me off guard and kept me up and alive. Although I've entirely just fallen straight backwards in the bay during total line. Or even the thing that I don't like to admit today, but I've heard voices, like entirely uncontrollable and angry voices in my mind. However, I kept pushing all these signs to the side in the belief that this is just the Army experience, that I could get through it and come out to the other side stronger. I even wrote in my diary at the time that I was physically strong and mental strength would come with it, although I was very, very wrong. Saying all of this though, the United States military, mainly the Army, is still extremely useful to get into and learn about, especially since it gets easier and easier by the years. Just be aware it can be a scam just like anything else in the US. Now, if you're wondering what happened to me after the incident, let's say, I proceeded to be held as a non-trainee until graduation, since later that day I came forward about it to my PG, or my platoon guide. Then I decided to myself to do the responsible thing and also have the Army value of integrity and tell my senior drill sergeant about it, forcing me to get generally discharged from the Army. To which, to this very day, the main thing I'm still pressed about is when I came out about arming myself, I got chewed out for it. I didn't expect to or want to get babied or anything, but like specifically this one senior drill sergeant by the name of was behind the CQ desk yelling, "What are you gonna kill yourself with, huh? What are you gonna kill yourself with?" To which I had to tell them the truth that I felt like I was gonna lose control of myself and end my own life at the range tomorrow. They also asked me a question that made me truly pause in all of my thinking, which is a question that I honestly don't know if I'm truly content with today, that being if I truly wanted to stop training, which is the one question I just didn't know how to answer, since in my heart and soul I truly wanted to keep training. I wasn't like the other non-trainees and ETPSs in my cycle who wanted a cheap and easy way out of the military, since it honestly isn't worth it. Like, you make more money, like pretty much working minimum wage, I'm pretty sure. I felt like I could keep going, even though I could hardly do push-ups since I had a level 1 twink build, and even though I felt like I had little to no true friends at the time, I wanted to do this. I wanted to become a United States soldier. It especially hurt too, just the thought alone that I would come home the same man I entered as. The following days after my confession too, it truly destroyed me even more than the actual act during the incident itself. Not even an hour later after they took my shoelaces, took my shaving razors, and placed me on censored watch. I still can't, I don't know if I can say that still. I found myself sitting in a bathroom stall at one of the lowest points of my life, just crying, sobbing as the world continued on around me. I remember hearing trainees walking by and joking and laughing and singing cadences while I could just hardly get myself together. I just sat there with a Tide Pod in my hand thinking if, I could eat it. Which, don't eat chemicals, kids. I got even lower than the following days, writing and completing an entire... I still don't know if I could say... Death Note. Which is something I've never done before in my life. Since I'd always start one and then find my reason to keep living and keep moving forward, and then delete it or rip it up and tear it up and then move on. Even going to a military certified behavioral health specialist, which, thinking back on it, I believe it's because they're military certified and that isn't a high bar to pass, which is why it didn't help. But going to those military professionals just didn't help me at all at the time. But the one thing that I can say helped keep me going through was my battle buddies. I would always get so much crap from drill sergeants and even some of my other trainees from other platoons, but just having some friends to talk with me and keep me on my feet through some of my darkest moments in life was just a huge game changer. It's hard to just describe how much a difference is just having someone just talk with you. Like, I remember talking with one of my trainees' friends, and it literally just prevented me from taking action on myself for just another day, and even that just one extra day of delay just helped keep me going. Just talking with someone, just having someone there is great, and that's why you should never give up on your friends and have friends that'll always be there for you, because it's really important when push comes to shove. It's really important when you get to the hardest parts of your life. You need that reinforcement there. Which, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, is find your anchor. Find those people who can keep sitting there and supporting you through thick and thin, who will always be there for you. Because there's a lot of fake people in the world who will literally drop you as soon as push comes to shove. You know the funny little joke where it's like the boyfriend dating his girlfriend, as soon as like a horror creature comes along, dude just shoves the girl straight into the monster and just runs off. You don't want someone like that. You want someone who can just help you, who can always be there for you. This is more rambling. If you couldn't tell, a lot of this is kind of going off script-ish, but you want someone there. You need someone there. So find that anchor in your life and grab a hold of it. Find that someone who can keep you pushing, who can keep you going. That's my main takeaway. That's my main thing I want you to take away from this. If you're someone who's going through stuff like this or has previously gone through stuff like this before, it's just find that person who can keep you going in life. Anywho, I came to the army to fix parts of myself and change aspects of my life. However, having depression before joining the army, as well as several unsolved issues with friends, plagued my nearly 2.5-month stay at BCT. Otherwise, that's all I really have to say for today's video. Oh no, I could add more here, hold on. The main thing I told everyone who asked me during BCT why I enlisted is I enlisted into the army thinking, hey, I'm an emo teen. If I do this, I'm just gonna go in and not care about any of the exercises or any of the drill sergeants and whatever even comes to shove, because I'm young and I'm ignorant and, emo teen stuff, But however, when the training actually started, it turned from me not caring about how things were going during BCT, it's not caring about my own life as a whole and making myself an even emptier shell than I was before. Also, I don't know where to put this, but I can't hear the words front leaning the same way anymore, i.e. the statement to start the push-up, or there's the front leaning rest position, and it's like that one PNG of that soldier with PTSD, but replaced with a cat. Otherwise, that's all I have to say for today's video. I apologize if it may seem extremely out of nowhere for a video like this, but I wanted to attempt to make peace with my own mind by expressing myself in the best way I know how, YouTube. And also, I last posted I think 6 months ago, and I want to start back up with a bang. Although I hope me telling you, my lovely audience of 2 subscribers, about my own experiences can help you face your own mental battles. Just remember, you aren't alone in your struggles. No matter how big or how small you may perceive your pain to be, any pains you have are ones you need to solve. Since the smallest unresolved pains hurt the most in the long term, it will grow and grow and grow to be that massive problem you may have truly feared in the first place. Now, before I end this video with the stereotypical subscribe nonsense, I want to tell you some really true words that one of my drill sergeants told his platoon. Those words being, and I quote, "Enjoy every second, trainees, since tomorrow is not promised." I just want you to sit on that for a moment, since every second could, honest to all, be your last, and I had to feel that void of my near final moments several times over now. So just take a moment to enjoy everything you have, whether it's major elements of your life like family, or even small ones like the music you listen to, whatever roof you have over your head, or even what food you're able to eat. Everything means something, and there's always a chance to improve your life and change your life for the better. It's never the end. Also, I watched an absurd amount of Hell's Kitchen in preparation for the army, and it helped sorta, but also didn't help since I immediately forgot the things I noted down on Hell's Kitchen and the army for pickup day. Now, that's all for today's video, and if you made it this far, I want to say thank you. Just thank you for listening to my story. If you have any questions or have had any similar experiences yourself, leave them down in the comments below. If it's truly heartfelt or funny, then you'll get the Reddit gold of my heart on your comment. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. Also, I apologize for the content drought, but I have something pretty big coming soon. And remember, as always, keep your head up and have a good day.